Okay, so in this video we'll be talking about oxidation numbers and then eventually getting into redox and half reactions. Okay, so first off, when we sign oxidation numbers, these are the numbers that go above each one of these elements to tell us what their charge is. Now we've had a basic understanding, but there's a few rules that we've added. And the first rule is anytime an element is by itself, it's going to be 0. So none of these and any of these examples on page 13 of your homework are by themselves. So each one of them is going to have a charge other than 0. The next rule is group 1 and group 2 will always have the +1 +2. Oxygen will always have -2. Hydrogen +1 and fluorine -1. Okay, so knowing what those are the rules, another thing that we need to remember is that anytime that I have a compound that does not have a charge given, so like in B here, there's a charge given. In A, there is not. So I'm thinking that when I add all the charges of K, N, and O, they're going to come out to equal 0. So when I do the math for this, I'm saying that potassium plus nitrogen plus, and I have 3 oxygens here, 3 oxygens have to come out to be an overall charge of 0. All right. Now I look at my rules. Potassium is in group 1, so it's going to have a +1 charge. Nitrogen does not fall under any of the rules, so I'm going to rewrite it. And oxygen always has a rule of -2 charge. So when I add all those up, once again, it should come out to 0. Now I just do the math. I figure out, solve for the missing variable of N. So 1 plus N, put those together, -6 equals 0. N -5 equals 0. So nitrogen has to equal +5. So I would put +5 right here because the N was underlined. Okay? That's what you're doing for all of these. The only other little change might be when you see something like, let's look at G right here. And it has a -2 at the top. So instead of setting it equal to 0, I set it equal to -2 because a charge is given to me. So what I'm saying is S plus 4 oxygens equal -2. Sulfur does not have a rule, so 4 oxygen has a -2 rule, equals -2. So sulfur -8 equals -2. Sulfur equals +6. So I'll put +6 right there. Okay? All right, so when I go to do a redox reaction, and I need to find the oxidation, the reduction, and I'm also going to have to find the half reaction for both of these. Okay? I look at the equation that is given to me first. Okay? And what I want to know is what's happened to the electrons from the reactant to the product side. Now, this one's a little bit different because I'm given a charge for this single element and this single element. Normally, the rule is that if they're by themselves, the rule is that it's going to be 0. However, if they give it to me, that's what I've got to use. So the first step in solving a redox is writing all the oxidation numbers above each one of these of your elements in your reaction. So these are easy because it's +3. These other two are by themselves. There's not a charge given, so they are going to be 0. All right. So now I need to figure out what's happened to aluminum on the left side to the right side, and what's happened to iron from the left side to the right side. Okay. So I have to also remember that oxidation is going to be an element that is becoming more positive. Reduction is an element that has become more negative. Okay, so if I look at aluminum, 0 to -3, well, that's become more positive, so that means aluminum would be the oxidation, and iron +2 to 0, well, that's a negative direction, so that's going to be more negative, so iron is being reduced. Okay, now to write your half reactions, I start with whatever I have on my reactant side. So my half reaction for oxidation would be aluminum with a 0 charge. My start of reduction would be iron with a +2 charge. Okay, now your reduction is going to be a little bit easier to explain because how do we get from +2 to 0? Well, I've added 2 electrons. And by doing that, it's produced what I have here of FeO. Okay, so there's your half reaction for your reduction. Now, in this case, since we cannot have a negative or a subtraction sign in a chemical reaction, what I've got to say is aluminum produces aluminum plus 3 by kicking off, well, how do I get from 0 to plus 3? 3 electrons. And there is your half reaction using electrons for your oxidation. I hope that helps.